Media. Or at least he thought or felt that they left nothing private. They were recording everything. They were posting, their entire lives on social media for profit, right? And my friend even made the point of saying it's like they're whoring themselves out on social media. Hi, my name is Ronnie Cruz. After almost 2 decades as a career network marketer, I realized that despite continual work on my personal and professional development, that I had hit a massive brick wall. So I took a deep and honest look at myself, top to bottom, hoping to find answers, and my search led me to one conclusion. The definitions I held of my business, of my world, of my life were the very things holding me back. If I wanted to change, if I wanted to grow beyond my current circumstances, I had to wipe the slate clean and redefine. This show is dedicated to helping you identify the belief systems, the mindsets, the very definitions that have held you back, and then help you break through those limitations to finally create the life you've been working so hard to achieve. Welcome to the Redefine Podcast. All right, happy Tuesday and happy podcast day to you. Welcome to the show if you are brand new. And of course, if you're an existing listener, welcome back. Welcome back. Thanks for tuning in. If you're watching the video version of this, you'll notice that I'm home. I'm back at the cabin on the mountain in the middle of nowhere. So I have my recording gear. You'll have a little bit better production value in terms of audio. You also won't get the neighbor that's mowing their lawn in the middle of the day, or the neighbor that's working on their car in the middle of the day. You know, I don't really have neighbors up here, so we'll have opportunity to actually record more while I'm here in my cabin. And yeah, I'm going to be doing another round of traveling very soon. So I'm going to get as much recorded as I can while I'm here, just because, it's nice and quiet, right? It's nice and quiet, and it's a much more conducive situation and environment to record episodes. Anywho, neither here nor there. Today I want to talk about opting out, and the conversation will actually happen in a few different stages, and we'll get to the very end of it. The thing that you really should opt out of. It all started a couple of weeks ago, or maybe last week, when I recently, I had a conversation with a dear friend of mine from college. We were just catching up, and it was one of those, long 2-hour, 3-hour conversations that you have with really good friends. Part of the conversation, we got to talking about social media and content creation, and there was a point where my friend was communicating his annoyance, a very high level of annoyance at how some content creators, or at least he felt how some content creators were just sharing too much, right? It was almost like this indignation at the fact that they or at least he thought or felt that they left nothing private. They were recording everything. They were posting, their entire lives on social media. For profit, right? And my friend even made the point of saying it's like they're whoring themselves out on social media, I don't necessarily agree with that. But my thing to him was, what does that have anything to do with you? Right? Like, people are going to do what they're going to do. If you don't like it, then just opt out of looking at it. And in fact, if you spend any time on social media, then you'll see that it'll actually give you more of what you want and less of what you don't want. So just stop looking at stuff that makes you angry, right? And annoyed and feel indignant. And look at stuff that interests you, right? Like and heart the things that you really find enjoyable, and that'll fix your algorithm to curate to curate your content experience to be more tailored towards you. Because there's no reason to continue paying attention to anything on or offline that doesn't immediately affect you. Outside of creating a negative emotional state. So, like, if it doesn't affect you directly, then why even give it any energy, right? So opt out of those things online, especially online. And I know this is easier said than done. But when it comes to negative comments or even cyberbullying, I didn't grow up in a world where there was always social media and there was always the internet. So maybe that's what buffers me from it, and maybe that's why I have this ability to kind of detach what anybody says online, and especially on social media. But really, even I think even people who were born during the social media age, and never knew what it was like to not have the internet, we can still teach these individuals to have a level of cognition and awareness that they can just not pay attention to it, right? Because there is I'm not gonna lie. There is a lot of toxicity. There can be a lot of toxicity on the internet, especially on social media, especially in comment sections and in these threads. However, we still have the choice to opt out of any of it, right? We don't have to give anything online our attention. We really don't. We really don't. Again, unless it directly affects us, which very few things on the internet actually affect us, from especially from a social media standpoint, because you can just tune out, right? So if it doesn't affect you necessarily, then yeah, why give it any energy? Why give it any thought? I know I'm kind of being reductive about the whole cyberbullying thing, and I know that it's a much more nuanced and complex issue, especially from a psychological standpoint. But generally speaking, and if you have haters in your comments, and you have people criticizing you and criticizing your content, or whatever opinion you might have put on social media, then yeah, you can opt out not to, number one, pay attention to it, and number two, not to respond. I've posted content before that yeah, that's received less than pleasant response, and like, I'm not gonna lie, it does have that kind of immediate knee jerk effect in me. I have that response of like, oh my god, I need to answer this guy back and tell him what's what. But then I realize, oh, that's not really going to do me any good. Number one, and it's just going to be a waste of time. Number two, so opt out of looking at content, especially comment sections and threads that don't serve your purpose, and that create that evoke a negative emotional state in you, right? You can really just tune it out, and especially when it comes to just your feed, the algorithm will give you more of the things that make you happy. It's really actually that simple. Now, the next part of the conversation is, so opt out, right? The next part of the conversation just happened a few nights ago. My sister and I were just coming back from, I think had watched a movie, and we always notice, especially a certain time of night when everybody in the neighborhood is home. This is at my mom's house. The street is lined with cars, right? And this is the suburbs. This is not in the city where that's normal, but in the suburbs, like, where each house has at least a one-car garage, but most of them have two-car garages. Very few people in that neighborhood actually use their garage to put any cars in it, right? Like, not even one car, let alone two cars. And I was trying to reason with my sister. Well, everybody, in that is of driving age here in America generally needs their own car. I mean, especially in the suburbs, it's where mass transit is really poor, and it's not really convenient to everyday life. It's very difficult to function without a vehicle. And she said, yeah, I get it, but like, what's the point of garage? People don't use garages anymore. And I started to kind of sense the same annoyance in her about people not using their garages, and they become this outside living space, right, of the house, as opposed to what garages are originally meant for. It was parking your car, and then the space that their cars then take, not just in their driveways but in the streets, that makes it a little bit inconvenient for us to drive, especially with me. I've got a pickup truck, and so yeah, I mean, I understood. I was like, try not to get too annoyed at it, and because I mean that's their choice to not use their garage and to park their cars in the street. Again, everybody that is of driving age and that is either in school or has a job needs a reliable mode of transportation. So it's a little bit unavoidable for a lot of people, the sheer number of cars. And she was like, yeah, I mean, I get it. I'm not really indignant. It's just mildly annoying. And rightfully so. It is somewhat inconvenient to pull in and out of our mom's driveway when the street is completely lined with vehicles. I mean, it's a residential road, so there's not that much space. So the opting out that I want to mention in this particular example is the first level is similar to the other conversation with my friend about what people post on social media. I mean, you can opt out of making that judgment of how other people are using their things, right? Just like with my friend in social media, opt out of that judgment of how other people are using social media. It's got nothing to do with us, right? Like it's all up to them how they want to use their things and where they park their things. So you can opt out of that. Again, I understand the mild annoyance. So the next part of the conversation, and this applies, the next opt out that I wanted to really mention, and this is like the big picture opt out, is and it applies to both situations, both conversations, is opt out of allowing yourself to feel this way, because again, it does stem from the judgment that you make on how other people are using their things and or what other people are doing, right? The negative emotional states and negative emotional reactions that come from whatever you feel about how people are posting and what they're posting, or how people are using their garages or not using their garages, it comes from really from a judgment that you're making on those people and how you think they should be using those things and how they should be behaving on social media. And so in an essence, you're really creating your own negative emotional state. So what we really need to opt out of, beyond opting out of not following certain people we don't like, and beyond opting out of making judgments on how other people use their garages, we need to opt out on making ourselves feel this way, right? And I get it. Again, easier said than done. But catch yourself and really, I mean, this is what this whole podcast is about, is really raising your self-awareness around the different things that elicit emotional states, and then trace it back to, especially with negative emotional states, trace it back to the cause of that emotional state. And when you get down to it, 9 times out of 10, if not 10 times out of 10, that negative emotional state comes from the narrative that you've created around the thing that you're talking about, and around the thing that you said is making you annoyed or making you angry. It's not the thing itself, it's the narrative that you've woven around it. It's the story that you tell yourself about that thing. So raising that awareness, and again bringing it back to really knowing what the root cause of that negative emotional state and that negative reaction is, will allow you to then opt out of feeling that way, opt out of continuing to make that judgment, right? And then therefore you just rewrite it and be like, it just doesn't matter, because it really doesn't. It has nothing to do with you. It doesn't have to affect you to that degree, right? It doesn't have to affect your emotional state, and then therefore really it can affect the rest of your day if you let it, right? So really get a hold of this. When you feel yourself getting, when you feel that level of negative emotional state welling up in you, figure out what you're reacting to, and then figure out what the narrative is that's created that emotional state, and understand that you have the power to rewrite that. You have the power to redefine it. All right, so that's my message for today. Hopefully that makes sense. Leave me a comment in the comment section below. Let me know what you think. And then, of course, if you haven't already subscribed to the show here on the YouTube version, go ahead and subscribe. Hit me with a thumbs up. If you are listening to the podcast version, go ahead and hit that follow button on whatever app you happen to be listening on, and then we'll just we'll have a fresh new one for you on Thursday. So until then, be well, be safe. We'll see you in the next episode.